Hi, and welcome. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Aesthetic Immersion AI Live. My name is Enoch Kwok. I CEO for Skin Perfect Medical, as well as I work here at the Aesthetic Immersion. You may be expecting someone different today. Dr. Kwok, Gideon, as well as Lori, they are enjoying themselves on a European travel slash tour slash training. They have been traveling a lot lately for a lot of international training events. So I'm filling in today. Hopefully you can kind of join with me tonight and be able to cover some of the topics where I typically talk more about a lot of the operational side of running a med spa, a lot more business topics, management. And so today's kind of a very interesting topic we'll be covering a little bit. Very excited today to be able to kind of talk with our esteemed guest, Jason here. He is from Simple Studios. He's actually local to us here in Southern California, so we're able
Pretty
to meet
close.
and not too far, right?
Yeah.
And so we're excited to talk about really protocols for patient photos. I think this is something I know in our practice for 18 years. We started off as, a smaller place, a few room operation, and now we have several locations. Some of them are smaller, but we have some locations that have 15 rooms.
Yeah.
And so I've struggled with that in our practice in figuring out how to get the best patient photos, because I think we all should know, and I think we all agree here, the better photos you have to show the outcomes that you're able to produce, it helps in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like just you yourself as a provider can kind of look at your history and your growth. I think from a business perspective, having better before and after photos helps you better do marketing. It helps better consultations. It helps convince patients that you are the provider, you're the right provider. And so, but we've all seen and we've all experienced, we've all seen online, right? Like, how is this legitimate? How is this
Right.
bad before after photo? So
Yeah.
hopefully some of these topics we'll be covering today. But I can maybe have Jason introduce himself to everybody. And we can kind of there's a couple of slides that we're going to be going through today, but hopefully today's going to be a little bit interactive, really talking about things. So if you do have some questions, really chime in, put in the chat. We're going to try and get to some of the questions in the future and be able to really, hopefully, solve this mystery of how to get better patient photos.
Well, I don't know if we're going to solve it today.
Yeah.
And we do just have a couple slides, right?
Yeah.
Just a couple here.
Just, yeah.
But yeah, I'm Jason Johnson. I founded Simple Studios a few years ago. And the reason I did this was out of necessity. I found that this industry was completely lacking in the ability to take proper photos. And that's no fault of the practice owner. Yeah. It just blows my mind that a practice owner goes to school, has to open a business, hire staff, figure out billing, invoicing, processing, everything, all of that. And then they're expected to learn photography on top of it. Like who has the time for that, right?
Right.
So I started shooting photos back in 2014 for Allergan with the launch of Illuma. Yeah. And I was on the road. We did a 2-month tour, and immediately I was asked by doctors while I was taking photos, can you come out to my photo room and fix it? Like we're having big time trouble.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, yeah, I can do that. I love building things, inventing things. I love processes, and I love speeding up systems and making things efficient. Yeah. So I immediately started going out and fixing studios, and that just was word of mouth for about 9, almost 10 years. And then last year, I decided let's make Simple Studios a real thing. Let's help the masses, not just a couple through word of mouth.
So you started off really in an organic way. There's a problem that people are finding you just through what you were doing previously professionally with, again, a lot of our vendors within our industry.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just kind of like, hey, I can help. I just want to help you figure out how to, as a professional, get you to the results you're looking for in the photography. But now you're kind of moving like, hey, now there's such a big need for this.
There's a huge need. Yeah. And you were talking about practices that need this for marketing. There are so many huge losses of opportunity for that. So when you have that hero patient that you just know this is going to be the greatest case ever, and you take that iPad photo up close with bad lighting, unfortunately, and it's
Oh,
a
man.
3 out of a 10
I
on the
know.
beauty scale,
I know.
and you lost that hero patient.
I know.
And I know that people can relate. This has happened since the start of aesthetic medicine. There has never been a solution for taking great before and after
I know.
photos. So that's where I said, okay, I got to do this. I think I'm the right fit for this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where
Again,
I
when
went.
you're talking about some of those things, I can instantly relate to those moments where I don't have a background in photography. I'm just here running a business, or trying
Right.
to field the phone calls, or we're trying to get the patients in the
Mhm.
door. Providers are just trying to do their job of providing best patient care.
Yeah.
But we have this, dang, we have to take a photo somewhere. What do we do?
Right.
What equipment do we have? It kind of is like, then you start searching on Amazon, you search on
Mhm.
Google. It's like, what if you find the photos? And I mean, we have a graveyard at one point with this box of all this old
Yep.
equipment
Right.
that we bought over the years. It's like, well, we tried it. We think it's going to work. We put it in the room, and then we try it. And once, I think it's very demotivating. I think this is just also
Mhm.
from a business side.
Right.
To get a good photo, to your point, there's just something about it. If you get that great photo, you're like, wow, it's so motivating. When you don't, it's such a demotivator. There's like, oh, then we're not going to use it. And then it's a bad cycle, honestly.
And then what do you do at that point? You explain to your other potential patients, I did this really great job on
Yeah,
this
right.
patient, but the photos don't do it justice. Just trust me.
Yeah.
You know, so then that visual representation is
Yeah.
just lost. And that's
Yeah.
everything that we need in the industry is a visual representation of what you can do. Plastics, derms, med spas, all of them.
Yeah. What
Right.
do you find when you've gone to practices now and talking to providers?
Mhm.
What are the biggest issues that you see, whether it's just from the just the physical nature of things of photography, but also maybe any more conceptual ideas that people
Mm.
have in understanding what they need to do?
I
what
would
they
think
don't need to
the
do.
very big thing, the headline is consistency,
Yeah.
but I think that's
point.
kind of an obvious headline,
It
right?
is,
It's
yeah,
consistency.
but
Now,
so
within
hard.
consistency, there are so many bullet points and check boxes that you have
Yeah.
to go through.
100%.
So that is consistency on your lighting and your distance and your camera settings, and I mean it goes on and on.
Yeah.
You have to have a system, and when I say system, you need parts to this step by step that will allow every staff member
Mhm.
to take those photos confidently, follow the same system, and not have to learn photography.
Mm.
And I've said before to people, you don't need to be a photographer. Stop being a photographer in your practice.
Interesting.
Use
Okay.
a system. You do not need to understand shutter speed, f-stop, and ISO. Forget about it.
Yeah.
You just need somebody to set it up for you and then be done with it and check
Yeah.
it off your list.
Yeah. Kind of hop
Mhm.
into the slides here.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. So I kind of touched on my background. I was a professional photographer starting in 2010.
Mhm.
And I was approached by Allergan through a couple people. And they said that we've got this odd project where we need you to take before and after photos of patients.
Mm.
I'd never done that before. So I jumped into it. It's supposed to be a 2-month program launching some brand called Voluma.
Mhm.
So I jumped into that. First day in LA, I'm with Dr. Mauricio de Maio from Sao Paulo, Brazil, MD codes. And I'm shooting the worst photos up there. I mean, huge framing on the patient, dark. I was so afraid to overexpose it, and I didn't understand it. So he coached me through that, and I started to get it. I started to put together my kit, my photography kit, and it started to work out. And then we signed up for another 2-month. Well, that 2-month, it ended up being 2 years that we traveled together. And so he really coached me along and helped me understand what practices need, what physicians are looking for. And I just developed my system and fine-tuned it. Allergan started using my photos for books that are in practices now, which that was always fun to see.
Yeah.
Like, oh, those are my photos. And it
work,
wasn't
might
even
work.
intended to be in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't a campaign shoot or anything.
Mhm.
And then from there, I shot almost everything under their umbrella, and not everything campaign you've seen, on the website,
Mhm.
but we've done FDA stuff, case study for everything under the Allergan umbrella. Quite a few years in that. Cool Sculpting, Cool Tone, worked with them over there, and then moved over to Evolus when they launched and helped them launch the Jeuveau line.
Yeah.
Shot all their model photography. That was 14 models, 14 months. That was a big lift. So I had to really document. I created my own system, which I'll show you. I had to be able to document what these 14 models, what they're going to look like. So what type of light are they going to get to show off the glabellars the best?
Mhm.
So I developed a system, and we've used it for campaigns since then, and it's great. And that was a lot of fun. That shoot was a lot of fun. Then went over to Revance, helped them with the RHA, Redensity, and Daxify launches. I didn't get to do their campaign shoot, unfortunately, but just a ton of before and afters that people have seen, and a couple other things I'll show you guys. Yeah, I saw an opportunity to move the needle, to push things.
Yeah.
So I had been on set and I had seen what a photographer had done during before and afters.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, there's a better way to do this. This is not scientific. This is not clinically accurate. It's not scientifically accurate. And that's what I wanted to do. So then what I did is I developed this large scale studio. This has 7 lights and I'm able to document where in space they are, X, Y, Z, and then document it on a spreadsheet for every one of my patients or models in that case. A lot of fun with that, and more studios and event like trade show booths. In the upper right, that's a Kybella case study photo booth that I designed and for a necessity, and now it travels and does case study shoots. The bottom is Revance's studio, their video studio. A lot of fun
that's in Nashville,
to design
right?
that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then that brings us back to the practice topic. These are some past studios that I've developed here. Similar sized rooms, sort of. The one in the middle is about a 6 foot wide, 10 foot deep, but they're all getting the same look, all the same need, and they're almost identical on their operation for sure, and their lighting is almost identical.
And when you with these customers here, and their practices, what was, if you can remember, maybe what was their setup like before? And then did they have a dedicated room, or was it more like, hey, we're just figuring it out as we go and just like photo here, photo here, photo here?
Some of them will be in the dedicated photo rooms like this. Some of them will be a light stand, a couple light stands and a couple soft boxes with a mat on the floor, like it's usually a cool sculpting mat, right? The wooden mat, right? It's usually that.
The turning thing and all
that.
Yep.
And then an iPad. That's usually what it is. Or a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. And then in some situations, it's just a ring light and they stick their iPhone in the middle and that's it. So
we still do that, unfortunately, in certain situations.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got the need.
Yeah. I mean, it's always, again, I think for us as a practice, we also have these rooms here that have some space for photos. Yeah. But we also do have to figure out at times if that space is being used by some other provider and we don't want to slow down the flow of the clinic, then we also, it has been kind of the give and take sometimes with rooms. Rooms are great. They get you the best consistency, as he's mentioned, which is super important. But sometimes in a busy practice, when we're seeing 30, 40 patients a day, it becomes challenging just with the logistics of always going to one room too.
A bottleneck.
Yes.
Yeah, it can create a bottleneck, especially if going into that dedicated room is complicated. Yeah. Takes time. And everybody has to think, like, am I doing this right? Yeah. Am I going to get yelled at later?
Yeah. So location becomes really important.
Yes.
In terms of figuring out what we're doing. And we'll talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah, we're going to hit location for sure. So why do we need these photos? What are they doing for us? They are the visual representation of your work. And I think this goes beyond just showing off your work, but it also shows your attention to detail. And I think that echoes throughout a practice. So when you see a really nice, beautiful, accurate photo of your patients, I get the feeling that that provider has that attention to detail throughout the entire process, the entire business. Yeah. And that makes me, as a potential patient, feel good. Yeah. And it makes me feel relaxed and trusting.
I agree. And I think with us on social media all the time now, and we've all been there where we've seen before the photos, and if they're even slightly off, you start this trust comes into question. This question of is it legitimate? Is it altered in any way? And you may not have done anything altering it to make it look better. It's just, unfortunately, there is something that you can see very immediately, and that links into your brain. Like, is it trustworthy or not? Right. To your point, a clean consistency. Okay, well, they have a standard they're setting, and I can then trust that, and the photos look good and the results look great. So yes, I'm ready to go with them.
Yeah. When they are accurate, you can look at the before and the after, and then you see that difference. And then you can actually zero in on what's going on. Yeah. And I think this helps too when you have patients that come back for their checkup and they say, hey, I'm not seeing anything. And then you look at these photos and, well, you can't prove it on the photos. Yeah. And that's just another reason why we need to up that.
You bring up a good issue. I was at my clinic just yesterday, and we had a patient come in that way. She's been with us for a number of years, and she had started doing some nowadays very, very popular now is biostimulants, right? She was doing some Sculptra. And we know that one is one of those injections where you do it day one, you don't see anything really for months, few weeks after, right? And so she was like, she came in for follow-up and said, well, I don't really know if I see much results. And Dr. Kwok and Gideon, Lori talk about this all the time. The problem sometimes with patients and their perspective, they're seeing themselves every day.
Right.
So they're not noticing the change. But to your point, the photo that we took the before, after we showed her, she's like, oh, I see the big difference. I'm going to do another treatment. So that alone, again, from a business side is great because it solved the problem of the doubt. You relieved that. And then it led to another future sale, which we all, want to promote, that patient care and that patient treatment plan and get the next treatment on.
Yeah.
And the photo documentation helped us get to that point.
Yeah. And most likely there's not a huge change in that procedure. And that was the point by the provider.
Yep.
We didn't want to do a huge change. So it is going to be hard when they're just looking at the mirror every day.
Yes.
They can't see that.
Yep.
So that is that other reason that we need that.
Yep.
So I use this analogy sometimes just to break free of continuously talking about patients, right? You've got a Ferrari for sale. How are you going to take these photos and post them on OfferUp, Craigslist, or wherever, some exotic car for sale website? I'm going to use the nice photo that's set up right with a nice lensing background, lit up. I'm not going to take it in the garage, in the dark, in the parking garage. So just to give everybody another idea of how you look at this and how people perceive these photos are everything to your practice. And I think that if everybody did an audit and just, look at your website, and everybody does this already. Look at your website. Oh, I got to redo that. I constantly do it. Everybody does, right? Even when you finish it, it's about a week later, you want to fix it already.
100%.
But take a look at it. And from the patient view, what are they seeing? And when they walk in the front desk, beautiful entry, everything's awesome. But the photos are that last key. And again, no fault to the practice owners. It hasn't been available. And it's a huge struggle, to your point, having a pile of old equipment that is doing nothing because you were trying to learn. So I would always, just say, hey, audit yourself, check it out. And do the photos represent your brand or your technique, your specialty?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think we constantly do it ourselves and revisiting and redoing, trying to figure out a way to do it better or reevaluating some of these photos. And again, we don't have it perfect, quite frankly, either too. I don't know. There are some practices that do a very good job at it, but I think every practice at certain points, like, how can we improve upon it and do it better? And there are other technologies now, and with AI and not even AI so much, but the predictive in terms of, I've seen certain things with like Quantificare and other technologies in the marketplace that will do some volumetric photos and all those things. I mean, pretty sure with some of those systems with Camfield and whatnot, but we're always constantly figuring out to improve it. And again, it's an innate part of us to like, hey, we want to represent ourselves in the best light possible in photography and videos, and the before the images really just showcase who you are as a provider in a practice.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of cool technology out there, but it still comes back to 2D regular images that we're used to taking, because you need that for social media. Again, it's not going to die. It's not going away. You need it for your lookbook. You need it for the website. So
I agree. I'm pretty sure you work with, an iPad system, which is whatever everyone has, and maybe whatever cheap light. But I'm pretty sure you've also worked with $50,000 or $30,000 or $50,000 systems. I think that's some of the trappings here of this industry. Yeah, if you can afford it and there's a variable use case, definitely invest in that to help your business. But I think we're also talking that just basic old 2D photos and getting that right is probably more impactful than spending 30 grand for something that has a lot of bells and whistles, but it may not actually be what you need for you and your practice.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of bells and whistles not doing anything.
Yes.
We've all purchased probably collecting dust.
Yeah,
Totally.
Absolutely.
So we've got a lot to cover here. So what I like to point out on this, one of my customers accidentally forgot to take the necklace off of the woman at the top, the top kind of middle. The breast photo is cut down the middle, and you can see the exact exposure on both the left and the right of her.
Yeah.
So necklace is on the right on the after. And this is what we're looking for. We need exact lighting in the same position, and we need the exact same exposure. And this is, obvious to everybody, but it's nice to see something that is has been done right and
Yeah.
is consistent, to
Yeah.
then compare and go, oh, okay, that's where we're at. This is where we need to be.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's
so
actually to your point. That's a very good achievement to be able to have the consistency and make it look like it's one continuous photo, even though
Right.
we know it's not.
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah. Next slide. So let's get into actual practice,
Yeah.
location, and how do you think about this? Where do you get started as a practice owner? So I like to think about the location. Where are you going to take these photos? Because consistency requires the same location, the same lighting, distance, lensing, all the stuff that we keep repeating. So starting with that location is, if you have a dedicated photo room, then you've got your space. You are pretty much going to be consistent, especially if you have no windows. Now, in a situation like this, it's about a 6 foot wide, and I think it's maybe 8 foot on this here. I would love a 7x10. That's a great size room.
Okay.
Just beautiful. It's got the right angle of light that we love using. But something like this is an example. The door swings in and hits the light. Unfortunately, we work with what we've got. So that's how we do it.
Yeah.
We've done closets, we've done nooks in the wall, huge rooms, you name it. So when you're thinking about your areas and you have multiple exam rooms, treatment rooms, and you want to have everybody take photos in there, then the things you need to think about for that is where the same lighting is in the room. So if you have multiple exam rooms that are all the same, beautiful. That's great. And if your grid light is all the same, then find a wall that is consistent with the lighting. And it would be great if you could have a light from the left and the right coming down on the patient. If you could find that backdrop area, keep that patient 2 feet off is great, but 18 inches is where we go if we're
Tight for
just
space.
tight. Yeah. And these are rule of thumb. You can always break them. But if you go from the patient to the photographer holding whatever device, about 5 feet would be great.
Okay.
That's what we want. Consistent lighting, same spot, put stickers on the floor, a little Sharpie mark maybe, something like that.
Yeah,
That's
we use like masking tape, like painter's tape for certain things. Especially if we have this experience too, you have to open a door, but then you have to move your stand. I forgot what it's called, but you have to move the stand back into position.
Right.
But then when you have to leave the room, then you have to move it out and then open the door again, right?
Right.
Like
so
setting spots
think of
there.
all those steps and being consistent. Make sure that mat, that cool sculpting mat, doesn't slide around.
Yeah.
Tape it down.
Yeah.
Mark for your cart, your camera cart or your tripod, whatever you're using, and make sure the lights are in the same spot. Angling down at your patient, not straight in. And we can dive into that.
And would you say this, I mean, just making sure, obviously it takes time, right? You have to spend time to do it if you have the time to do it or have a team member.
Right.
But I think spending the time to really just, I guess, be consistent and make sure that this is where it needs to be every single time is such a big thing that is somewhat overlooked and especially when you're running a busy practice, right? You have the patients in, patients out.
Yeah.
You want to be able to do this very quickly. But I think spending the time to set it up is the challenging part sometimes too.
It totally is.
Yeah.
And once you can establish this is our setup, this is the way we do it, this is our system, then everybody follows it.
Yeah,
they don't have to think anymore.
Yeah.
And then other people can take it, because I've talked to countless plastics even where they are the only ones that will take the photos.
Yeah.
And that takes from their practice, takes from their time.
Yeah.
There's a bottleneck there. And it pains me to hear that.
Do you recommend, I know again, for certain providers, they operate out of a single room operation. A lot of times their photos are done in the treatment bed. I mean, I think we still do it for some people that arguably they just do that. I mean, is that, what is your thoughts on that? Just patient sitting in treatment bed, iPad photos. What do you think about that? Good way, bad way? Or is it still better to find a place in your small space just dedicate to taking photos, standing up and doing whatnot?
Well, if you found a wall and you found a couple lights that were off to the side, coming left and right of the patient, that was better than them just being in the chair, and great, pick that one.
Okay, prefer that over.
It could be.
Yeah.
But if you've set up your lighting in your treatment chair to where the light is good and even there, then maybe you use that.
Good point.
You can always get these reflectors that pop out that have a black background, they have a white, and you could slip it behind the patient in the chair, and then you've got a consistent backdrop. So look for the lighting first. Where are we going to get some good lighting on the patient? And then start to build that system.
That's a good tip. Like like a green screen, you're kind of like a foldable thing or
They
something like
have
that,
them in
and
green
you slide
screen.
it behind them while they're sitting there?
Yep, but they have white and they have black.
That's actually, yeah,
And
that's
so you
really
could
easy.
slip it behind them, take the photo if that is the spot for the light.
Mm,
And that just takes the investigation.
okay.
Yeah.
Good point. That's a good tip.
Let's see what else we got here. Next slide. So consistency. We've already covered this. This is everything about photography in the practice, and establishing that, and then moving forward and just going down the line with staff and saying, this is the way we do it. Yeah.
It just, I think that's the key thing from an operational side. You have to just stick to a standard process.
Yep.
If you allow any changes to it, that's when things start to, okay, the first couple times or first week or 2 weeks, it might be okay. But when you don't stick to something, it just slowly degrades. And then all of a sudden people are learning from the bad habits, or they're just learning to just get the job done, but not get the job done right.
Right.
Again, we experience this. I've experienced this in our practice. I think this is an area, once you have your place, once it's dedicated, once you have you see the results, make sure your team is just stick to it. Like, this is the only way you do it. Don't change anything else.
Yeah.
No
thinking.
No
After
thinking.
this just follow the system.
And I think that's an interesting way to present it. Don't think about it. Just do it. Then it takes
Just-
the stress off you and your team and
Yeah.
whoever's doing that.
Yeah. Whatever you have established as that system, just follow it. Don't
Yeah.
deviate. That's it.
Yeah.
Next slide. So once we get that consistency, we automatically and beautifully get efficiency.
Mhm.
So consistency translates to efficiency. Now we have a faster photo room, or that photo taking process. If you're in an exam room, a treatment room, it's going to take less time. You're going to be more accurate, and you're going to have staff members that are more confident to take those photos,
Yeah.
which I've talked to tons of them over the years. And that is one of the things that they get nervous when they go take photos,
Yeah.
and they don't want to mess it up, because on Monday morning meetings, they keep hearing about that, right?
They unfortunately potentially get drawn up. Hey, look
Yeah.
at this, and oh, why is this photo not great? And And then,
Yeah.
it is a real world problem that does have implications outside of just a bad photo. It does translate into potentially, again, money being lost, marketing not working out the best, or even
Yeah.
just employees kind of feeling like, being demotivated to do something when it's not great and not consistent, not efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
This lens thing in the camera, I know that's kind of what we're talking about. A lot of people have a digital SLR.
Mhm.
What do you find to be the most efficient, let's say, in terms of doing a system? And how many photos do you typically try to encourage your practices to take if they were to do something, with a setup like this?
Creating a system
Yeah.
of their own.
Yeah.
Well, as far as how many photos and even the framing, I don't push anybody in one direction,
Okay.
because being shoulder to shoulder in these practices for over a decade now, I've realized that I am not going to tell anyone how to run their practice, how to take photos. I can give you my suggestions, and if you want it, great.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of photos. I've taken a lot of photos.
Yeah.
So when they say they want a really wide shot, great. I'll point out that you need to crop it, and you got to get it ready for your website and for social media.
Mhm.
But I never want to push anybody in a specific direction for that.
Okay.
So
And then I guess when you talk about lens and adjusting lenses and stuff, how does
Mhm.
that work when you maybe have a wide shot for maybe like a body sculpting thing, like cool
Mhm.
sculpting, where you're trying to capture a larger portion, but then if we're really trying to get a before and after photo for the face,
Mhm.
like how do you do that so it's efficient and consistent every single time when you
Mhm.
have to adjust the zoom lens? Or
right.
do you recommend people to have 5 different lenses, which I don't anticipate you do it, because we're trying to make it simple,
Right.
and keep it easy.
Yeah.
How do you go about that in terms of running through that process of thinking and setting that up?
Now, I wish I would have put that in the slides, because I developed a camera rotator to where you can easily just rotate your camera into a vertical or horizontal position.
Like preset. In a
It just
endpoint.
locks in at 90 and
Locks in.
0. Yeah.
Mm.
And then the other thing is, on the lens, we have lens stickers that we put on with the practice decision makers, we call them. And that's where we will zoom in and frame up that body part that we're about to put the sticker on. And if they love that, we put the sticker on. That is it, in concrete forever. Staff follows this. So
Got it.
that's our method.
So you run through it initially with the practice owner, right, principal, and they're like, these are the shots that I want every single time, and then you just have your preset settings based off of what the end result was after that research that you've done.
Yeah. With them, we figure it out. So we rotate that zoom lens, we frame it up, and they say, yes, we love it. Then we put the sticker on. So now staff, all they have to do is just rotate the lens.
Got it.
And slide the camera up and down.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So it's just one, if you go the DSLR option, you really just only trying to do one lens, correct?
Yeah, one lens.
Okay.
One zoom lens. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Next slide. So iPad and iPhone, we'll hit this really quick. Pros and cons to this. It pains me to use them, but I understand that people have to in certain situations. Yeah. They just can't get on to the next level because of everything. Space really being one of them. And then how are you going to integrate that into your software and all that?
That's a big one.
So we've got your iPad or iPhone. You only have so many pixels when you're taking that. So the sensor that takes in the image into that little processor on your phone or iPad only has so many pixels. So when you pinch zoom, you are utilizing the same, I forget it, 800 and something pixels. You're pinch zooming into now 400 pixels. So that's why it's getting blurrier. So that's why people go up closer most of the time. Now we have a battle there. If you get up closer, you're making a wide angled photo, and you see it on the bottom there of Brittany. So I stepped into the office and just shot her with my iPhone, what I typically see online on websites. So we don't want that. We're getting a little more clarity, but it distorts the face. The ears start to get wrapped around the face. The nose pops out, the chin. So we don't want that, but we want to pinch them. We want to typically stay, again, 5 feet away from our patient and then 2 feet away from our backdrop. Okay. That's where we're at. I have 2 lights up there representing a perfect scenario. You've got 2 can lights that are shining down, and it's not going to be the most beautiful lighting, but it's going to be consistent. Yeah. And that's what we're looking for.
And I know a lot of practices, we all have purchased ring lights somewhere.
Right.
I think we cover that maybe a little later, but how does that work with the iPad, iPhone? Is it still top light is still better than a front light?
Yes, totally. So ring lights were, I believe, invented or brought into the market for Instagram, selfie, YouTube video kind of a thing, right? Yeah. The aesthetic industry, for some reason, just grabbed onto the ring light and just brought it in and said, this is our solution. Yeah. And it is the worst light to use. Ugh. It's so painful, the worst light to use. So what it does is it then wraps around your patient. It fills glabellas, NLFs, marionettes. So the patient is saying, I've got these problems. Can you help me? You shoot the before, you shoot the after, they look basically the same. But the office light up above coming down, you can see that. You can see the shadowing. So that ring light puts the light right in where we need shadows. Shadows are our friends. A lot of people are afraid of them, but they are our friends.
Interesting. That's an interesting point. I mean, I know again, to your point, it's the easy option. It's the one that has been grown in popularity. You feel like you can, with the center, the ring, and you put your phone in the middle of it and your iPad in the middle of it. It's easy.
It's easy. Yeah.
But even for us as our practice, our EMR that we use is for before the photography is tied to the iPhone app, the iPad app. And so could we arguably use an SLR camera and take a photo and then upload it? We could, but in some offices, we have that worked out, but sometimes just out of convenience. And I think we kind of, even for us, just, hearing and cringing in my mind when you say it's the worst. Right. But there's some, the reality is there's some practicalities to where we're at, and we don't know what we don't know. Right. Yeah. But I feel like we do a lot of our body photos with DSLR, but when it's like facial things in a treatment bed, kind of there, then we have this convenient iPad, boom, and we can bring a ring light and we're good. But it's just something to think about, even for me in our practice, on how we can make it much more efficient, but still consistent, and trying to get at the end of the day, we want to show the kind of, in some sense, theoretically, the worst before photo and the best after photo without any manipulation, right? And lighting, though, makes a huge factor in that.
Yeah. And in most cases, if you are consistent with your before and after, everything consistent, you're going to see that change. So if you are doing your job as a provider, which they all are, I'm sure, you're going to see it. And that's where, again, consistency, you've got the side-by-side, you can go, oh yeah, I see that. Yeah. I see that subtle change and I like it. Yeah. The digital camera, mirrorless DSLRs, This is obviously the way to go. So
Okay.
same rules apply. Say 2 feet off the backdrop to your patient, from patient to the camera or the camera operator, about 5 feet. Now you have manual settings. So now you can lock in your ISO, your shutter, your f-stop, your color balance, your picture style, and then everything else below that that people don't even play with.
Yeah.
So this gives you the best image. You have way more pixels. Most cameras now are basically 4K. There's so many pixels in there. In a JPEG photo, there's like 3,800 by 2,100 pixels, something like that. So you have a ton of pixels, which means you can take a large, like face, neck, chest, and zoom into lips, and it is beautiful. So now you can get more efficiency by taking one photo, and then you can use that same before photo for any one of the procedures and hyper focus on a photo in post when you crop it for Instagram. So then, and then on your website too, when you've got fillers and you've got tox and maybe a rhino, well, then you can take that same face, neck, chest and zoom in and put those on different areas of the website. And you can promote them in different ways.
That's the difference, I guess, with the SLR compared to like an iPad, iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
It's that number of pixels. And even if you just take the photo with one setting, because there's just so much more density of the pixels, you can zoom in, zoom out, whatever you need from that one shot, but you can use it and expect the same quality in whatever formats you do as you process it.
Yeah, that combined with the lensing. So when you have a nice lens, good glass, as we say, then you have a very clear image coming in. And with a zoom, it's pushing into them, not digitally. So when we pinch zoom on a phone or an iPad, we're zooming in digitally and destroying pixels. That's what we're doing. We're eliminating pixels. So that's, this is the ultimate setup. Again, know that this is real
I guess in this topic of hardware, and obviously we're talking to people that may not be the most, savvy in terms of the photography. I mean, what are we thinking about? Is this, budget wise, or even just a minimum spec, or the best spec we can for a budget, Is this like what do we have, a EOS Rebel or things of that nature? Are we looking at more than that? Is it like, what are we looking at there?
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times I'll see practices go out and buy the most expensive camera, the newest and most expensive. And we're talking professional Canon with a $1,200 lens, a $3,500 camera body, because somebody told them that if they need great photos, they need a very expensive professional camera. And that's not the case. I can take my 20-year-old T3i Canon EOS Rebel, and I can shoot photos better than most everybody out there in not any photographer, but I'm talking just the aesthetic space. Because I know the settings, I know how to play with them, and I know how to set up my environment.
Got it.
It's all about that. It's all about your lighting. There's plenty of pixels on even the old cameras. So getting the best camera is it's not the reason.
It's not the reason. Maybe if you're an enthusiast and you feel like you want to go that path, then great.
Sure.
But it's not the end all say on that you have to get the best of the best.
Right.
You can get good results, as you said, with something that may not be the most technologically advanced, but for our need and for our industry, it's only one part of the bigger puzzle. Piece of the puzzle.
And then I would say if this is your hobby and you got it to be like hobby and in the practice, don't do that. Don't take that camera away from that room. Leave it there. Tape the buttons down. Like, don't let anybody change it. So I mean,
guard it.
There's so yes, totally. So buy a separate camera.
Next slide.
So lighting types. So if you are able to set up your own room, or you're going to even put lights in your treatment rooms, let's say you have enough room for that. There's two different types. There's LEDs and strobes. And there's some myths, and I'll talk about more myths down the road here, but there's myths about strobe lights. I hear a lot of times that we don't want to use strobe lights because it gets rid of all the wrinkles. It fills everything in. For people that do understand we need shadows, they say, well, it fills in all the shadows and it washes them out. I hear that a lot. It washes them out. I understand what they're trying to say. It's just they don't know what they're thinking about that situation. What it is that they see flash on camera most of the time, where it's that little tiny flash and it shoots in and it fills everything. It washes out and it creates a shadow on the backdrop. Yeah, we don't want that. But when we use strobe or LED lights on with soft boxes, like the two images on the right, those are providing a large light source, good lighting onto our patient, and you can use either one. Now, there's pros and cons to it. So with the LED, we have video function. So if you want to do video animations like I did with Evolus for Jeuveau, we did frown, relax. So if you want to do that, go with the video function, which is LED. The cool part is that you can see your shot too. So when you're in the room, now the drawbacks, there's always pros and cons to everything. You have to shut off your room lights and only your LED lights, because you're going to have mixed light. You're going to contaminate your photo. We don't want contaminant light. So we have to shut that light off. That's tough for staff members to remember when they're rushing in there to turn that off. And then when you don't notice it, because it's not a big difference in light, then it's not top of mind. So you have to shut that off, but you could roll video. That's great. Then you move over to strobe lights. We could have the sun coming in through the window over here, and it's not going to interfere with our shot. And that's kind of a myth or misunderstood a lot of times, is that if we have a window, we can't shoot photography here. That's not true. The strobe lights are powerful enough, and when we set them up properly, they will overpower that sun coming through. And it's different. If you have a direct light hitting the patient, okay, we're not going to battle that, right? That's going to be a little different. But if we've got some decent light coming in through a window, we can overpower. And then the strobe lights are great because we're going to have less mess ups by people forgetting to turn the light off. Got it. So those are some of the pros and cons
and
to
the
it.
strobe lights, if you again, for me, non-technical in a sense, those are the ones that when you take a photo, you go into photo studios, they just flash when the clicker gets pushed, right? And they just flash.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're using LEDs right now. So they're constant lights.
Correct.
And then strobe lights are pop, and they make the pop sound.
Got it.
Yeah, big flash of light.
All right. So lighting, again, super important. Understanding
Very
the use case of which is more advantageous in certain situations. Right. I think that's the key thing. Okay.
Yep. Two choices.
Yeah. All right.
So posing. So one of the things I did a post on this not too long ago was don't overpose your patient. And I learned this first week when I was on the Voluma tour. I had a woman that had severe scoliosis, and she was to the side. And I got her into the perfect position that I wanted. I wanted straight and nice and level shoulders. So I did finally get her into a good position after a lot of verbal communication. When she came in for her afters, which was like 6 hours later, she's exhausted. She's been numbed up and pricked all day and filler and all that. Now, at the end of the day, I'm asking her to correct herself. And I found that to be extremely difficult. So I quickly decided that I've got a 2 to 3 pose rule, and then I'm moving on. And that is, hey, can you straighten out your head, shoulders, and then that's about it. Because when they come back, they don't even want to do their afters. You're going to get less patience out of your patient. So due to 2 to 3 rule, then you can get them back in that position better. It's going to be much more difficult to get into
just
that.
to keep it as simple as you can, because it's more easily duplicatable if it is. With certain situations. Okay.
Yep. And the other thing that I've just started to notice is that we've got a lot of angry patients on Instagram. And again, no fault of anybody, but we're getting these at rest, which are like this, right? Well, what about just a little smile? Just a simple smile like that. It makes a huge difference. And I think as an industry, I think we should just take note of that and let's move away from the static at rest. I think we need that for clinical reasons. And you need to see where the facial animation is when they are at rest. But when you're showing this off to your audience out there on social media and your website is, hey, maybe we should just get a little simple smile on there. And just bring that up a notch. It makes a huge difference. It looks like your patients are happy to be there. Right.
That's a good point. I mean, I think sometimes you're after treatment, like you said, you've been filled up, your injection's been poked, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, the last thing I want is a photo, but you're already committed to the before, and we want the after as a business.
Right.
But it's like trying to make it thinking the end result is one, yes, for medical safety, right? You want to make sure that you're documenting things and keeping the record. But from a marketing perspective, if someone's seeing it and they look like they're in pain or not
Right.
happy,
Yeah.
it doesn't translate very well, maybe potentially to, hey, I want to go visit this practice.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah. Go jump in the mirror and then just do that test for
Interesting
yourself and
thing.
see what that looks like.
I mean, on the posing, I mean, angles, I guess, too. I think we always struggle with the straight on, you could argue, is pretty straightforward. I think the angled shots and getting those consistent can be very challenging. I mean, I know,
Yes.
how do you kind of maybe direct that? Is it have a certain room, every single room you have a certain thing, you have a certain eyesight and eye angle that you need to turn your head to?
Yep.
Even sometimes it's still not perfect, but I don't know any tips in terms of finding that right 45-degree angle.
Eye targets.
Eye targets.
Yes.
Okay.
So eye targets on the walls. And the way you set those up is you get in your profile. We'll start with that one. What I like to see is just a little bit of that brow on the backside. So I will have the potential patient move a little bit, the model, like
Okay.
one of the staff members. And if I think you guys might be able to start to see my
Yeah.
brow, it's a better look than a true 90, because if you actually set up a target true 90 in your room, it will look like I'm looking away from you. That's the way it looks on camera.
because the brow is off frame.
It's
in some
off
sense.
frame. A little bit of that right there
Okay.
and a little bit of that brow. And then put that eye target on the wall. Just stick something up there. Going over to your oblique, we don't want to block that CK3 for sure, right? We want to see this OG curve. If you've just filled this, you don't want to block it by the nose. Now, the eye target for oblique is different. This isn't as scientific as everything else.
Yeah.
We're going to set this up for a standard face. So you get somebody in the office, just kind of a standard face. Mine is not going to work for this setup because I'm more of like a 37-degree. Everybody calls it a 45. It's rarely a 45. That's kind of
45.
drastic,
Okay.
right? But my face with my nose bridge, I'm going to block my cheek really quick. So I'm going to be more like at a 35. I think most people are maybe at a 40, but then some people are going to be 45, 50. And that's all about the face. So you get an eye target that kind of works. That's at least their eyes are consistent. Now, when you're not rotating, but you're giving verbal instruction to your patient, you're going to ask them to slowly and very small move their head away from camera, and they're going to move it like this, and just don't block that back CK3 region right here. And if you're doing CK2, don't block that either. If you're showing it off, make sure you have them rotate. And a lot of times what I like to do is I'll set my camera up and my patient, I'll jump in front of my camera and I will dodge left and right. And I'm looking right at the patient because I'm looking for the pop of the OG curve. I want to see the best shot. And then once I see that, I get back behind my camera. Then I could say, okay, I need your head tilt a little bit or angle a little bit away from camera. I can fine tune it there.
Got it. So really, again, eyesight, eye targets, you said.
Eye targets, yeah.
And then also just the frame of the shot, making sure the brow here, as well as then the CK in the cheek here.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
And your instructions, I like to be very minimal on my instructions
Yeah.
and deliberate. No fluff talk. Not even, oh, you're looking so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. I've seen patients get so distracted with that. And by the time we finally get that patient in that correct OG curve, and if you're like, oh, you look so beautiful, and they go, thank you, and they look at you and they just ruin the shot because that little movement just ruined it. Now you got to get them back into that.
Got it.
So a lot of people laugh at me when I say this, but I like to say, you're a statue. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. And then I'll say, chin up a little bit, hold it, hold it, hold it. I just repeat it.
Repeat, hold.
It's
hold.
boring,
Yeah.
but it's effective. And I've found that you just have very deliberate, direct instruction.
Yeah.
And it's better for both people. They
Yeah.
want to get through it just as much as you
They
do,
They
right?
do. And you want to keep, sometimes I've been at it because I take red photos for different treatments that I have done. You kind of also like to hear something, otherwise you're sitting in silence while they're doing something.
Yeah.
If you hold it, hold it, hold it, at least you're paying attention. You're like, okay, I need to hold, versus like, what are they going to do next? And you're watching them and maybe losing focus on what you should be doing.
And the antsy patient will move. They will, if you're not giving them instruction, if you're not talking to them, if you're not saying hold it, they think that you're messing with some settings and they're going to just start looking around like this.
Yeah.
The antsy ones will do that. And then the shy ones will just lock into their patient, their position.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good tips there on this.
Yeah.
one.
Direct.
Absolutely.
Be direct with it.
Yeah.
Next. Oh, there we go. So software, you have to ingest this when you're using a iPad or a digital camera. You have to ingest it and then hopefully get it right into your EMR. That's ideal. So then
Yeah.
there's no more work involved.
Yeah.
That's the ideal situation.
Yeah.
So we have 3 players, and really it was just 2 on the digital camera side. TouchMD connects with an iPad,
Yeah.
and it goes directly through USB connection, so no wireless, which is beautiful. And then you can have a live view of your about to take photo. You've got your grid lines that you can use. You take it, and then it's sent to your EMR again, hopefully if they interact. We've got Canfield Mirror. Everybody's familiar with that one. And then you use a laptop with that, and you connect USB. Great. Same thing. Live view, sends it to your EMR, and then you can use it later. Now, a new player in the game is Prosper. So
Haven't heard of them.
they just came out and released a direct connect USB connection to iPad, and same functions. So I'm really excited that they are in there in the game to help elevate, because when you're limited, a lot of people are just, they're stuck with what they're using. Now, if we have more software companies going to connect to cameras,
Yeah.
we're going to get better photos out there, and
Yeah.
it's just going to elevate the entire industry.
Yeah, and I think this part, for those that aren't really tech savvy, we all know we need to we are living in a tech world with
Mhm.
technology. And some of the biggest mind challenges sometimes when you're having a photo system and you have to bring it is, how do I bring it into my software that I need, or bring it into a usable format, or into the
Mhm.
again, my EMR or your software.
Yeah.
I think that can be a roadblock sometimes mentally, to be like, oh, it's an extra step, and then
Mhm.
I'm not going to do it because it's so much work. I think this is, to your point, if there are better software solutions for that can keep moving us forward, if it makes it easier for the provider and for the team
Right.
to be able to actually leverage the photo and bring it back into what we need, what you guys need as providers, that also is part of the equation too.
Yeah.
Part of the-
Yeah, it's a big part.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm the hardware guy. So I am cameras, lights, and your system.
Yeah.
I create the system, and I've got that locked down.
Yeah.
But on the software side, that's where I need these guys' help.
Yeah.
So it's great that we have now 3 players that connect, and it just, again, it gives more options to the practices to get those photos and get them cataloged, archived.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
Next slide. So myths, we kind of touched on some of
Come on,
this,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
So the expensive camera, we talked about that. You don't need it. You just grab any old inexpensive camera. And inexpensive, I mean, $850 camera. That's what I'm equipping my studios
Yeah,
right now.
Costco has
They're
them.
beautiful. Yeah.
Costco
Yep.
has them.
You can get them
Well,
anywhere now,
Sam's Club,
right?
yeah.
You can buy a camera anywhere. 100 millimeter macro lens. I've heard this over and over, is that they were taught in school that they needed a 100 millimeter macro. Now, yes, 100 millimeter macro, beautiful, beautiful image, beautiful glass. I have that lens, but do you have the space for that? And how are you shooting body? So 100 millimeter macro, you've got to step way back.
Way far.
Nobody has photo rooms that big.
Mm.
So that limits you. So we have to think through all of our equipment and make it work for our space. So that's a big one there. And then we've got our ring lights. Like I said, just don't use them. And if you are using them, if you have 2 of them, put them up high and come down on the patient,
Okay.
45-ish, like that, and come down. Then we're using them as lights. We're not using them as a ring light wrapped around your camera. So that's something that you can do with your existing
So
equipment.
it's not so much the LED, and it's just more that format of that circle. It's because it's so enveloped in things. You want to kind of break that apart
Yeah.
in terms of the ideal situation to have
Yeah.
the 2 coming above from the heads, from the top down.
We see everybody with light coming from above.
Yeah.
So as humans walk around, we have sun from
Mm.
above. We have office lights from above.
Good point.
We don't see light blasting in our face, filling it like this. We're not in a mirror, a makeup mirror all the time, right? So you get into a makeup mirror and you're focusing in. You have light all around, and that's intentional because you want to see everything that you're doing.
Mm.
So we don't want to use those
Interesting.
ring
That's
lights.
an interesting point. Just related to how naturally we are in the sun, kind of sun lights coming from the top, and just,
Yeah.
I mean, these nonverbal things.
We
it's
see
just like
shadows.
naturally, we just see that.
Yeah, we
Interesting.
see the shadows coming from above.
Yeah.
Uh,
good point.
So blue backgrounds. A lot of people, again, in school, they're taught to use the blue background because I've heard the difference between the skin tone and the blue allows people to really see the difference.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
And I think it is it does provide a lot of contrast there, but I also think it's distracting to the viewer. My own opinion, I think that blue just does remind me of the operating room. It reminds me of scrubs, bonnets, the mats. It reminds me of surgical and pain.
Yeah.
I like to step away from that. We're using a dark gray for all of our studios right now. So it's a low sheen, matte, dark gray. Love black. Did that with Allergan for years.
Yeah.
But black shirt, black hair, you start to
Everything.
disappear,
Yep,
right?
blend in
Black
the
skin,
background.
you're disappearing. And I love a nice dark black,
gray.
but we go with the gray.
You're going with
And
the
so
gray now.
it's a classy gray. And you could go with a black that is just not black, like just put a little gray in it, as long as you can see separation from shirt, skin, hair. And
Got
then
it.
you're great. Or a bright white if you can pull that off. Blue also shows shadows really bad. So when you have your frontal light coming on, your big soft boxes, you're going to get more shadows on the blue backdrop than you will with any other color.
Interesting.
I also think it would be a lot of fun if people played with colors. Look at your color palette throughout your brand guidelines and pick something that maybe you could take a lower tone, something that's not too bright, and then go to your paint shop and show them, get something in a real flat and try that out. And you could paint your backdrop, paint your wall if you've got the ability to do that, and you could keep trying it.
So in some sense, what I'm hearing is you're not a purist in the sense of like, hey, it needs to be this exact in the part of the background specifically.
Right.
Because I've heard the blue thing, the blue case, it's the best photos of the scientifically shown, da da da.
Right.
But you're not denying that fact, but there are other factors involved for our maybe industry or for our usage of what you like to see.
The usage, right? So we're not getting these photos that we're taking every day and then just putting them in a medical book.
Yeah.
If it was a medical book, maybe that's what you need to do because that's what everybody is used to.
Yeah.
But if we're throwing these on Instagram,
The
day
visual
in,
cue you're
day
saying,
out,
blue just is kind of
yeah,
can be not shocking, but I get your point actually when you're talking about that.
Yeah.
When you see something blue, it's like it kind of creates a little bit extra contrast that you may would like to see, so it's not as comfortable possibly.
exactly. Yeah, it's the not subliminal, but the
subconscious type of thing.
Yeah, you see that color, you see
Yeah.
that blue come in.
Got it.
And then especially if you see it before and after with a blue bonnet on, I know they're about to walk into surgery.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I would take that off. I would strip that off. So, and shadows, that's the other myth is that I hear we don't want shadows. And again, I mentioned this before. I get what they're saying, but we do need shadows. We need that downward light so that we can see that volume that you either decreased or increased.
Yeah.
The wrinkle that was there before is now gone.
Yeah.
So if you don't have shadows and you've filled in those shadows with light, then you're working against yourself.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
All
Let's see what
right,
we got next.
slide.
So what we have to offer at Simple Studios today, we only have one solution. I used to have about 5 solutions, and I pared that back because I found that there's really the core need that we can work on and we're best at is dedicated photo rooms.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing right now. Dedicated photo rooms, it's kind of that left photo there, 2 lights, camera cart, backdrop, and our system. And we can take care of dedicated photo rooms. But what we're working on right now is we've got an iPad solution. This is going to be, I got to name these too. I'm going to have to figure out how to name all these products. But picture you've got an iPad with a nice telephoto lens that clips onto it. And you've got a system, an instruction sheet that goes with it, and you have a sticker kit. So this is something that you can use for as many rooms as you want, as many people as you want. Your staff could be big, small, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And this would help people bring their photos from a level 3 out of 10 to maybe a 6 or a 5. And we're talking consistency and beauty because I like to rate them in 2 separate columns. I like to rate my studios when I'm selling a studio is we have our 1 to 10 on our beauty and our consistency. Because there's some that if we're not in the right scenario, we're not going to get the most beautiful photo. It's going to be like an 8 out of 10. It's not going to be a 9 or a 10 out of 10. So, so that one will be a good starter solution there. And then we've got a camera and an iPad cart that we're developing. So this one will hold your camera on a slider, just like our other studio system, and then lights on the cart, and that will be mobile. It'll be a similar situation where you go to a specific spot in each one of your treatment rooms and you take the photo.
So it's more movable.
It is fully mobile within the
mobile.
practice. And I've told so many people no, but honestly, what happened was a couple of weeks ago, I got 2 calls in one day that they need 2 to 3
solution.
for their location.
Yeah.
And I said, I just can't build it 10 out of 10. And I just can't release it. And they said, no, we're fine with a 5 out of 10.
But we just need a solution.
But we need a solution.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
I don't need to make this a 10 out of 10. You need help. I get it. So it's all out of necessity. And that's what I like doing, is solving these problems for the industry.
Mm.
And then the other one that I'm really excited about, the bottom one there, is a full studio, a small studio for med spas and even dental as well. But it's a seated position for face and your face, neck, chest. And then you could stand and get torso, mid-torso. Legs won't be great with this, but it's everything you need included in a 4 foot by 6 foot space. And everything's self-supporting, so we're not mounting to the walls. So we can ship it out, you can assemble it and set it up. And we're hoping that October, honestly, probably end of October, that one will be ready.
I would love to take a look at that for
Yeah.
our practices. It's just something, it's always the towns. We have some offices that have the space, but a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, the flow just doesn't allow us to always use that space, because we can't just keep waiting in line for somebody. So it's just like, what is that solution that can be mobile? That's something that can be versatile.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be interested to kind of take a look and then see
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, I'd love to show you all these
Yeah.
once we get them done.
Cool.
And then the stage view is for injection filming and broadcasting on stage for live injection trainings. So I've done a ton of those in the past, and I've kicked around this idea, and finally I developed my first version, and we're on tour right now with a group and doing on-stage injections. And so I'm developing this new tool.
Well,
so
I'm interested
really
to do
excited about
too.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Next slide. And so this is an example of one of our studios here. This is a mixed-use consultation room. Just a quick little
Next
look-see. Next slide. This is a head-to-toe full body. Don't do many of these, but this is for full body weight loss. And that's where we ran the backdrop down onto the floor and put the patient positioning sticker on there.
Yeah.
That's a unique one, but very similar in the lighting and the camera setup. Next
Nice.
slide. Another one here, similar setup, good size room.
Yep.
Next slide. And well, we kind of went over a little bit, but
Yeah.
that was a lot of slides.
Yeah, I know.
Who built that thing? Jeez.
Well, I mean, I've learned a lot tonight. I mean, thinking
Good.
about some of the things that, even for me, just bringing back to our practice, but also potentially excited on some of the stuff that you're producing too and creating, just out of the organic need of our industry. And again, leveraging from the experience that you've had. I mean, I guess final words in terms of maybe what someone right now in this moment, what they can do just to improve, maybe not to the 10 out of 10,
Mhm. Right.
but getting from the 1 out of 10 to maybe a 3 or a 4 or 5 out of 10. What are some quick little things, or just what would you recommend in this moment outside of all the stuff that you have that wide range,
Right.
to being a super
Right.
professional to just, let's figure something out
Yeah.
to get going with.
Besides getting a simple studio setup, yes.
Of
Besides that, what you need to do is spend some time with some staff members that you really appreciate their opinion on the photos. The ones that are taking most of the photos, get them into the room and get somebody to stand in front of the area that you've determined will work for the photos as a model. Have them stand there and talk and debate about the perfect framing, and get your 5 feet away from that patient. But lock down what the framing is for each one of those body parts, and then make a system and say, this is the only room we're going to take photos in, or we're going to take them in these 3 rooms, or all of them, but it's going to be at that mark on the floor for the patient and that mark there for you as the photographer. Just create that system. It's going to take time. It's going to be kind of painful. If you're using an iPad, you have no manual settings. So you're going to be on auto, unfortunately. But if you can keep that situation as consistent as possible by maybe closing blinds, keep your office lights on, anything you can do to keep it consistent, and then establish that system, tell everybody this is the way it is, and then that's it. If you have a camera, now that's a deeper dive. If you've got that digital camera, there are so many different settings and different uses for those settings. And if you're using strobe lights or LEDs, or if you just have office lights, but you use a camera, you have to think about your level, your zoom, your distance, all of your settings. So that's a deeper dive, but take some time, come up with a system, and then execute it, and just distribute that throughout staff and tell them this is the way it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate you coming today and sharing us about what you're doing and kind of helping the industry. I think it translates. Hopefully a lot of you have learned even something that you can take back to your practice and help to improve just even one before after photo, right? And just the whole process and the system there. I think it'll be great. And again, I think it's just, we all know we need to do better on this front. I think we all do. Just as a reminder, we'll be seeing you guys next month, also on October 1st, our next AI Live at 5 p.m. We will be talking about Korean beauty with Lenny Dozer, one of our AI faculty that we use. And she's it'll be a great arbiter to kind of discuss some of the latest Korean beauty trends that we have up and coming, that we have now available here within the United States. And as with anything, our AI Lives are available on YouTube. They're available on Apple Podcasts to download, and they'll be live soon. So thank you again. Hope you have a good night, and we'll see you next time.